I'm very happy to see that we have so many of our, let's say, strong alliances, and I'm really happy that we can announce that we are now also have an alliance with Tacton. We are working with all the companies that you've seen on stage here, both Microsoft, PTC, and Salesforce, and very important companies for us as partners. And that comes to what Accenture is. We are a partnering firm. We don't push packages or software. We work very closely with our alliance partners. And just as a comment to the management consultancy, management consultancy is an important piece of our business. But what we do as a firm is transforming companies and helping them on their change journey, basically. So today, I will start talking a little bit about our view on industry 4.0 or the new type, what's happening in industry. And then I will make a personal reflections on variation. So the first half of my presentation is really around our Accenture and standard slides. And the second half is more my thinking, and in the end, a bit personal as well. And this is not really an interactive type of setting, right? But if you dare, please raise your hand and challenge me at any time, okay? I don't see you, so you have to shout or something. Or I see you a little bit. Okay. For your... I think this is evident for everyone that smart and connected things are creating or are sort of entering the market. The question is more, what is the kind of opportunity it creates and what kind of transformation it will mean for companies? I believe that we think that people think that, we are living as the way we have, and the companies that we are interacting with are the companies we will interact with tomorrow. But I think we will see new types of players entering the market in markets that we didn't even know existed, and become threats to companies that we take for granted. And I think we take, for instance, our Nordic companies such as Electrolux, Volvo, Scania, all of these firms for granted. They've been there for a very long time, and we think that they will be there in the future. But I believe that there are new players coming into those markets based on the type of technology change that we see. For instance, it is predicted that in the area of washing, firms like Amazon and firms like Amazon will give you a washing machine to be able to fill that with powder automatically instead of you buying a washing machine to have at home. Right? And that kind of change will happen through retail, but it will also affect industry. So, a lot of devices are coming online, and I think that the change that would mean is really not really experienced yet. So what has happened? How did we get there? Well, I mean, the technology change is enormous, right? In 10 years, the cost of sensors has reduced by 70%. The sizes of microchips have reduced by 90%. The processing power in the nodes has increased by 400%. And battery life has become 50% better. And that's interesting because there are a lot of research going into specifically battery, making that change coming much more rapid in the future. So we have 10 billion devices today. Someone said 8. I don't know. It's a figure we cannot even grasp, but we say that it will grow to 50 billion by 2022. The question is why? What will we do with it? We see that we come from a business that has been very focused on operational efficiency, and then we think about, well, what will this mean? New types of services, with new business models and so on. We will pay per use, but we also believe that in the future there will be an outcome-based economy. It's not about paying per use, it's about paying per what work will be done for you. And that work can be, like we discussed yesterday, pumped water or, a comfortable temperature in your house. But the thing is that for us, it's really easy to understand pumped water or comfortable temperature in your house. But the problem is, the opportunity is that it's really a vast space of undefined services that we don't really even can imagine today that these technologies enable. And in the future, we are foreseeing something like an autonomous pull economy where things are much more automated than today. I'd like to highlight a case where what we've done together with Michelin. Michelin this is in the truck tire manufacturing business. So Michelin, they had a model where they distributed the tires through distributors. Now it's a big challenge for truck companies to manage these tires. There are many tires on a truck, right? And they get wear, and there's a lot of cost connected to it. And just being able to save a little amount of cost is a huge business case for these truck fleets. So what we help Michelin do is to actually install sensors in their tires and create a new business around it. So it's not only about sensing the tires being worn, it's actually being able to buy the tire as a service. So the customer no longer has to switch tires. Michelin will do it for you, and they will make sure that they keep track of when it's needed. So it seems simple, but it's a huge difference selling tires than selling tire as a service or selling mileage on tires. So that has been a success, but still the business part of it is slowly picking up, I would say. I think this is a statement where I partly disagree with my firm, actually. It says products will be reinvented and re-architected as hardware becomes a simple container with basic functionalities. I don't want to run with that message to Scania. And I don't want to do it to any of our proud, Nordic manufacturing firms such as Wärtsilä or Kone and say that you will only do simple containers for basic, functionalities. But there is something in it, right? There is the fact that products mechanically will be simpler. There is a movement to rationalize mechanical products to provide that functionality through software instead. And the reason for that is simple, right? It's much easier and cheaper to provide that functionality to software and much more flexible. And it has also a much shorter lead time. So it is a natural movement. But the important thing is the opportunity it creates. In Accenture, we are talking about, we have framed this into a message that we call Industry X.0, where we believe that the Industry 4.0 is very operational focused. It's focused on improving the manufacturing environment and the operations of manufacturing firms. We believe that what's coming beyond that is the outcome-based economy, where we are able to mass communicate with our users, and from that create a totally different way of going to market, a totally different ecosystem around our clients and different services. As an example, I believe in sensing roller bearings have been a business for a very long time. with remote conditioning, monitoring of, let's say, windmills, for instance. But that has been seen as a pretty expensive and high-end service that that roller bearing companies have provided. And in the new type of service for the future business cases, you have sensing equipment on very, very low cost roller bearings. And what happens then is that you can sense, for instance, in a factory, there might be tens of thousands of roller bearings. And if you can provide all of those with sensors, you can actually monitor the whole manufacturing environment and know what is failing and not. So you get a lot of information from these without that you didn't really connect to the business of roller bearings. In addition, this is a whole new type of business for these types of companies, right? Roller bearings, it's a volume business. It's kind of, it's not simple, it's highly advanced, but it's a kind of commodity. Now you have to work with your clients in a totally different way. And on a large scale. It enables you to mass communicate with your clients in a way that these firms have never done before. It will change the way their industrial structure is built. For instance, distributors will have a totally different role if you're able to have that direct channel to your client. So, what do we need to do? We need to create new connected products and services. We need to transform business models from products to services. We need to become software and experience companies instead of hardware companies. We need to enable new types of ecosystems. And what do you get from that? Well, you will get new revenue streams, and you will get personalized experience for your clients, both for business to business and business consumers. But that's just on the top part, right? What about the new experience and the new services? But of course, there is a huge business case in the operations of your business to accelerate your business, where you can automate your core processes, you can connect your machines and derive and apply intelligence to improve your performance. You can connect and enable your workers in a totally different way than you do today. And I guess you all are familiar with that on the shop factory floor, there has been not so much changes to the way, or in our offices either, to the way we work. We are not as digital as our children. And what you get from that will, of course, be the reduced cost and faster throughput. And hopefully our children will be more efficient than we are, right? We also then have a framework in which we put this, where we talk about growing in the new, with the new experiences and services, and then transforming the core. And it's very important. When we say design, produce, support, it's about the core systems that we actually know today. It's about the PLMs, the ERPs, and the CPQ solutions as well. It is really around, digitizing the core of these clients. It's really necessary to take the next step. But we also believe that on the top here, you have to maybe work in totally different ways to innovate and to invent these new type of services. It is not necessarily so that you will be able to create these new types of services within your existing business. If you have been manufacturing and developing cars before, and as a natural evolution of that will do something completely else, that is questionable. I believe that goes for most of our manufacturing firms. So you have to put something next to it, and this is actually my only, let's say, advertising slide, where we work together with industrial clients in a setting that we call a digital service factory, where we bring all the assets that we have and work together with our clients in ideation, with incubation, with prototyping and industrialization, where we bring all the assets of analytics and AI that a client might need to be able to create these new types of services and to accelerate. Our sometimes competitors and sometimes client in the market, McKinsey, yesterday discussed around piloting and the fact that we have not really made this a success. And the time span that they put on that, the non-successful pilots, it was 2 years. And I was sitting in the audience with a dear friend and a client of Tacton here, and he said, 2 years, that is no time. That is no time even for a pilot, right? You have to have great endurance to make sure that these services actually fly. What we see is that in the area of defend, that we say here is like the current business, what can we do? There are things we can do to make your business more efficient. When we're talking about disrupt, it is very much about doing a wise, what we call a wise pivot. You cannot go for the disrupt all out, because then you would threaten your current business. You can't put all your money in the disrupt corner. The current business must finance the future business. And therefore, it's really about getting this wheel of disruption turning. So we really believe that you need to start working with mastering agile innovation. You need to work with open collaborations. But we also need to believe that the core of your business is really important to start to get these wheels turning. Now, what about variation and configuration? I think that is a lost topic. And now I will leave the slides of my firm and I will start discussing with my own slides, I would say. I believe that variation is like the core of industrial companies. And how good you are on managing variation is sometimes what is actually both sort of measuring your operational efficiency, but also your efficiency towards your client. But traditionally, Swedish industry has been relatively good at this. We are doing that continuously, and not only in CPQ, but the PLMs or whatever. When you are designing a product, you need to have several different suppliers. That is a type of variation. When you have different alternatives, components, that is a variation. When you are actually sourcing your product for manufacturing, you are exchanging parts from different suppliers. That is also variation. It is not only about customer selection and about managing the types of customer dialogue that you have. It is variation through the entire value chain of these companies. What we also tend to forget, and our partners that we've seen here today are really talking about the product. But industrial firms are not doing one product. They are maintaining an offering. That is why Geely is investing in Volvo cars, for instance, right? Because Geely, they are extremely good at doing a car. They can just take a car from the market, they copy it, and they create a car. It's not very difficult. But running an automotive business is about developing a car offering over time. And that's a completely different ballgame, having a factory that can manage variation. So why does that work? It works because we've done that before. No company in this audience, I believe, are developing a product from scratch. 90% of what goes into those products are reused. There's only a very, very top, which is actual innovation. And of course, it's about making that very top as differentiating as possible. But it's important for our firms like Microsoft and Salesforce and others to understand it's not about one product. It's a very complex thing to make changes to an industrial product. So I believe reuse is the absolute key to keep this wheel spinning. If we would not reuse, industry would stop. But the problem with that is that it keeps us stuck in the old. It keeps us at what we've been doing before. In addition, these companies are very organized, and we talk about silos all the time. I think we've been becoming much more, much better at doing cross-functional work, including different functions in the development project or whatever type of project we are doing. But still, on the ways of working and the system side, we are quite siloed. The way we work when we develop our offering is around optimizing the product portfolio. When we are working in the supply chain is for that. And when we are selling the project, we optimize for sales. And when we are talking about running the service, they have never even spoken to development, right? On the bottom part here, right, the typical behavior is to control variation. We want to have it under control. And on the left part here is like, we hate variation. We hate when there are different things. Why do you have to make it so complex? Right? The thing is that these firms need to embrace it. You should love it. It's the thing that if you're good at it, will change your business. And the pressure on that will not decrease. When we're talking about digital twins, software complexity, over-the-air updates, automation, outcome-based services, IoT analytics, and new types of experience, it will push for managing this variation. It will push for you to know your product. So this is something that everyone needs to do. And if you're looking at the software industry today, it's a topic that everyone is claiming, right? Salesforce has a CPQ. PTC are claiming that they are doing this, that they can do that as well. SAP will claim that they do it. All of them will claim it. But no one is actually doing it really well. It is, I would say, I'm positioning this in the middle of these, right? They are sort of cheating in this area. And that is why a company like Tacton is really on the rise, I would say. Because it ends up in between. And the question, what will happen in this market, is interesting. I believe that these companies, the software industry will realize this, or realizing that right now, and that they are realizing that it's becoming a key capability to master. So when we are talking about volume and variance, if we look to, try to describe this in a slide here, right? There is a standard and commoditized market here, right? Where you have high volume runners. And of course, manufacturing firms are present in this field. But the interesting thing is this area. The digital disruption will enable companies to be much closer to their clients and develop different types of offerings for different markets. And The question is not whether this will happen. It will happen, but the competition will be here. It is also a desirable segment because here clients pay more. The problem is how you do it profitable. And I would say that in the Nordics there are firms that are extremely good at doing this profitable. And there are firms that are not at all as good on doing that. Interesting. I made a spelling mistake. It says Prefault. I don't know what that means actually, but it's kind of fun, right? So, well-managed variation is a competitive advantage, and it will become a necessity to manage. The winner in this space is the fastest one to market, it's easiest to sell, easiest to manufacture, easiest to source, easiest to operate, easiest to maintain, and most open to partners and most innovative. Well, I actually believed that a modular approach in one of our great manufacturing firms was locking them to the business they were already in. And I've totally changed my mind there because I see them jumping into other types of businesses using the same type of logic. This is actually enabling them to be more flexible. The fact that they are mastering the methodology around variation makes them address new types of markets, new types of clients, new types of products in a way that their competition cannot. However, it will challenge what the idea of what they are, what kind of company they are. This is a picture of my two children. It was actually, I emailed my wife last night and I asked her to, or I texted my wife, I asked her to send a picture of my two youngest sons. I have 4 sons. I said, take a picture of them in the Lego box. This is actually a huge box. It's like almost 2 meters wide and it's 1.5 meters deep. I've estimated that it's around 12,000 euros of Lego. I'm not kidding. If you have 4 sons and your grandmother and grandfather, the whole family gives a gift of 100 euros each birthday and Christmas to each child, you will end up with those figures, I can tell you. But it's interesting what you can create with Lego, right? We love Lego. We do a hell of a lot of stuff with it, right? It's great fun. But what I want to say, it's not only about the end product. It's what you can create with your pieces. And if you are really strong about the governance, about your design rules, about your variation, it is not only about the top layer of rules, it's about the rules of how things are combined. So, I could make a comparison, but that's not from that's my personal comparison. It's not from Accenture. It's important. I'm not stating this as Accenture, but as me. When Scania are developing their trucks or their pieces in their firm, it's really around doing the right thing. You don't develop a component that already exists, or you don't develop a component that doesn't fit with anything else. You don't do it for one purpose. You do it to serve, the business. And that is not only a design rule, it's a culture. You cannot solve that culture by applying a layer of rules on top of a set of components. It's really about efficiency built into the walls. So you need to address this problem on several levels. So I believe Lego, Scania are 2 very interesting examples, right? Lego is really around the distance between a corner and the dot, and the dot, let's say, dimension. And from that, you can create almost anything. To do that, you need to have a strong governance. And it's really about, understanding the full life cycle of your product. Now, there is a contradiction in this, right? I'm saying that you need to be rigid. You need to push for, you cannot develop anything that already exists. You need to be, slow to some extent. But there is an agile movement. Now, if you're going to develop new types of services in totally different time frames than you've done before, you need to go agile. You need to work in a different way. But I think it's a bimodal thing. When it comes to your product, you cannot afford to not do it well and not do it in that flexible way that makes it possible to serve others. So, sorry to say, I don't believe that is an agile process. Creating the service, working, to develop, that can be an agile process. But when you are pushing that strong governance and making sure that you're doing the right thing, it's kind of contradictory. So, I actually think that was all. But please, questions. Thank you.